Good morning, world. Good morning, Vietnam. That's this is my second video, and I'm gonna start documenting my various stages of my recovery journey. It starts off, well, when it really starts getting good, about 2010, 2011. No, it was 2010 because my daughter was just born. I've always had this desire to go to North Carolina, right? So at this time, I'm actually putting crack in my weed, right? Which had started maybe 7 years prior, like off and on, right? So I'm like, hey, now I got a daughter. So I'm like, man, let me go. And then, of course, me and my daughter were having issues. So I decided to go down to North Carolina. Now, the first spot I went to was in Durham, I believe. But because of my record or something, I couldn't get in there. So I was quite disappointed. Had to drive all the way back to Maryland. Disappointed. Keep doing what you're doing, right? So then I found another. And you'll start seeing these various things where it was a black Christian ran recovery spot in Greensboro, North Carolina called the Malachi House. So I do the, talk to them over the phone. It's a go. I'm like, all right, bet, let's go. Because normally I do better out of town where I don't know nobody. Well, you can kind of reinvent yourself, so on and so forth. But again, like I said, in the first, my eyes be working. So it gets down there, bop. I get in the flow of things. You know what I mean? Get your head underneath you. You eating good. They did feed you good down there. So it's all to the good. But again, I be saying stuff. So how'd it go? Like, I'm seeing like a lot of like discrepancies. You know what I mean? Now, I don't necessarily voice my concern, but I'm taking a mental note. So here's where the rubber starts to meet the road as I'm seeing all these various things. So, I guess I've been there I wasn't there long, like 2-3 months. So I now mind you, it's a 9-month program. So there's no difference between, let's say, somebody who's been in there 7.5 months versus a dude that's been there a month. It was basically like a work camp. So you would go to work at whatever various spot they sent you. I worked at like the furniture, like, I guess they have like a furniture kind of international furniture store thingy in High Point where Fantasia's supposed to be from. So I worked there, worked at the car wash, all to generate finance for the program. You do that from 9 to 5 or whatever. You come in, eat. 3 days out the week, you will have an in-house NA meeting. Sunday, you will have church. And then Friday, if you wanted to, you could go to church. And that was basically the program. But they kept you very locked in. Like there wasn't any free time for you to go to the library or da-da-da-da. And I thought that was kind of odd, right? But again, I'm not here to grandstand whatever's clever. You know what I mean? And this is where I start understanding where I'm at now. Where as best I can help it, I try not to put myself in a vulnerable position. Because now what seemingly is happening is the help attempts to help themselves to you. But they have no desire to see you actually, do your own thing. Unless you seem to have some temperament like they have. So, and it was like a spot you couldn't smoke and so on and so forth. So I start finding like little holes so I can do my little thing. Because you couldn't smoke. And I wanted to quit, but that's, wanting to and actually doing 2 different things. So when I'm at the furniture spot, I'm running the freight elevator up and down. So I think one of the customers had like gave me some or whatever. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we could also, like I would only smoke maybe like 3 times a day. Because that's the only times I had to really like get jiggy. And because of the way I kind of operate, because of when they do see me, like I'm running around, I'm working, I'm, you know what I'm saying, happy-go-lucky, la. So when they don't see me, it's not, I wonder what Calvin's doing. Like I'm not alerting them if they don't see me. So I get to work, and I would take the elevator all the way to the tippy top to take my morning dump. But then there were like back stairways that had like a vent. So I smoke, do whatever, spray my cologne, come back, get jiggy, you know what I'm saying? Then I'm getting little tips, so then lunchtime I sneak out on my CIA mission to obtain cigarettes and sneak back undetected. And, you know, it was cool, right? And I had a dude that he looked just like Waka Flocka, right? Funny as I don't know what. And me and him would just roll around, you know what I mean, kicking it, just chopping it up, right? So this is when the rubber starts to meet the road, as I'm saying these various things. I had, you know, been chosen like it was, you know, like, oh man, you're great. You can go on walkathon. So I said, what's that? Essentially, it's where you go to these upper middle class communities and knock on the door and essentially beg for money on behalf of the program. So I'm like, man, I don't know about this, man. I'm not really good with people. I just don't feel comfortable. You know what I mean? So I'm like, man, can't y'all just send me to the car wash where I can get my little tips and do my little thug thizzle? So they're like, no, you know, and they used to have this thing, they'd be like, be obedient. Be obedient. Now, really, it's really being obedient to the Most High. But they'll, you know, put the flip mode squad on the word, be obedient to us. You know what I mean? And I send the lack of, compassion, even in a black Christian organization. Because the people who were directly dealing with were essentially what I would like to call the Hop and Bob types. You know, Hop and Bob from Life, the dude on the move with the shotgun who kept all the other ones in line, and he just get a few more perks, but he's still a prisoner himself. And then come to find out and discover that the staff that were dealing with us personally, they were only making $50 a week. But of course, you got free room and board. But they can't, like, you can't really break loose or do anything on your own or making $200 a month and then dealing with us for 40 hours, you know what I mean? But that's neither here nor there. So I'm like, I don't know, da-da-da. So they actually called me in to talk to the executive director. So I'm like, okay, cool. I get to meet, and I get to express my concern to him. So, of course, and he's smooth, you know what I mean? Nothing wrong with him. But he's, you know, be obedient. I'm like, man, I don't feel comfortable, yo. Like, I don't want to. And then here it is. It was New Year's Day. So I'm like, why is we going, people? And I guess, you know, they do it when people, they know people home. I'm like, man, I just don't feel right in my spirit. Back on the, you know, the first day of the year, holiday, and we going to knock on Bob and these people, begging them for money, yo. So he's like, you know, da-da-da-da-da, you know, he trying to slow cook me. So I'm like, I just tap out like, all right, man, I do it, man. But before that, he was like, if you don't know what to do, here's a pamphlet, read from that. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm waiting for the van to pick us up to take us to beg for money. So I'm reading the pamphlet. And as I'm reading the pamphlet, I'm like, wow, this place sounds great. Where is it? Because it don't look like where I'm at. So I go to another one of the homies who had been in there prior, I guess during his heyday, and I'll get to that. So I'm like, yo, did y'all ever do any of this stuff on the paper? He's like, nah. So mine is a black Christian program, and we got a pamphlet, and we're lying to people. 80% of our clients who graduate do. They just came up with those numbers. They weren't based on any real statistics. You know what I'm saying? And here's why. One of the reasons, and I had a prior experience with this before, where, like, these people, these black Christian organizations aren't about what they say they about in the mission statement. That's just what they do to chime you in so they can bamboozle you. That's why I call this the Bamboozle Again Network. That's why I refuse to let it happen again. So I goes out there, I turn the money in, all right, cool. You know what I mean? Whatever. But I'm just not feeling it. And then I'm seeing all this other stuff that's going on. Like one particular day, I went on a trash run, me and another guy. So we use this as a way to chain smoke cigarettes, you know, going back and forth to the dump. So when I come back to the center, I go to sit down where we normally eat at, and they was in there breaking bread, and they had money stacked up maybe a foot high on the table. So of course I shut the door, it ain't for me. But I'm thinking like, yo, this was a multi-million-dollar nonprofit organization. But there were brothers in there who needed socks, and us as other, clients or whatever, was, give them, the surplus of what we had. They wouldn't even get them people socks. I'll give you another example. They had sent me down, me and another guy who was kind of like tommed out, right? But he tommed out to the people, but he quick to like act like he want to fight if you get out on him. You know what I'm saying? Like one of them type. So we go to the DHS in Greensboro to clean up. And I'm thinking they get the DHS people paying them whatever they paying them. So it's just me and him on this mission, right? So he like, yeah, the woman's real hard. You got to do this, you got to do that. But see, I'm more like, I'm not like necessarily like a fit or like an impressed, like that's just going to naturally happen. So I'm like, yo, be easy, cuz it's going to be all right. Yo, you with me, yo? It's gonna be all right, yo. He like, no, Calvin, seriously, because she's gonna do. I said, understand. I got you, cuz. I got you. You know what I mean? So we get in there, meet the woman. You know, I'm respectful, professional. You know what I'm saying? And so she tells me what she needs to be done. So I regurgitate it back to her. I ask a few more questions. So I got clarification. All right, cool, boom. I go do it. I don't go get, now, we're in separate parts of the building. I finish it, I go get her. She go see it. She be like, oh, great job, yeah. Why can't, I forgot his name. Why can't he be more like you? Because he brown nose and kissing that. That shit don't work, man. Just do what you do and, you know, respect yourself. Whatever, cool, right? So then we walking around just talking about whatever. He see us on chummy time. And then she like, oh, yeah, you know, this is a great guy, da-da-da. So he's like thanking me, like, because now I made him look good. Which I ain't going to throw you, cuz, you know what I mean? But the woman told him, she was like, you need to be like Calvin. Da-da-da. I'm like, but then come to find out, so we on the way back now. So I'm like, you know, not to be in y'all business, but I'm like, yo, how much y'all get paid for doing this particular detail? He said, we don't get paid. I said, we clean it, the building up for free? She said, nah, they give us toilet paper. I said, what? So you mean tell me it's a multi-million-dollar organization, but you'll send a client to a building to clean it so y'all don't have to buy toilet paper? Granted, I guess in the business sense, you know, you can write that off the expenditure list, but I just thought that was so crazy. So, like I said, I'm seeing these various things and so on and so forth, right? So let me get to the meat and potatoes of it as I set the premises. So they had brothers there who worked at the dog kennel, right? Now, this is a 7-day-a-week job. You don't get no days off. So, in theory, if you had been there 9 months and you worked there, you would have worked 9 straight months without a day off working at the dog kennel. Right before I left, they started giving a rotating day off. Like, you might get 1 day off a month. Like, it was crazy. So, and they come in last for dinner. Doug bite them. They say they racist out there, this, that, and the third. So, I'm like, well, good thing I ain't get sent out there. So, whenever they would come in, and I wasn't doing it to be like, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, like off-putting or anything, but when they come in, I would clap for them, right? I had been doing this for months. I stand up like, Daddy, yeah. You know, keep the brothers encouraged or whatever, because they working 7 days a week. So I come out that joint, I do it again, you know, like regular, and nobody never said nothing to me. So you got Big Ironhead Hayward. He was like the head of the staff, right? Same kind of archetype of, you know, I'm the thug, but, you know, the scrawny people at the top just tell me what to do and treat me like shit, right? So he's like, man, who doing all, but he had to already know because I do it every day. So he like, man, who doing all this clapping, da-da-da? And he got all this like energy with him, right? So I'm looking. So I just fold my arms up. Now, mind you, I got all this other stuff in the back of my head, but I'm like, who is he hollering at, though? So he said something slick, da-da-da, and go back in the joint. So I shut down, like, man. So I'm sitting there, so now my whole energy done changed, right? So I guess everybody feel it. So eventually, they called me back to the office, right? So I'm thinking as I go back there, like, okay, well, here's my opportunity to express my concerns of what I've seen, right? So we sit down. So he said, man, people have been saying you've been, you know, like teasing them or something like that, right? So I said, man, no, you're not, man. You just made that up, man. Because I like to believe I'm approachable, and I got a decent rapport with anybody here. So if anybody actually said that to you, and you said they said it to you like 2 weeks ago, why ain't nobody saying nothing to me, one, and why you just now waiting until now? So now, like, he see, like, my brain is kind of different. So I basically just called him in a made-up lie, which made him mad. Because normally, I guess the way he's set up, nobody questions him. You know what I'm saying? But you're not going to insult my intelligence either. So he like, da-da-da. So I'm like, yo, what about all this, that, and the third? So he can't answer the questions, nor is he qualified to do so. So he say, man, man, at the end of the day, man, you want what I got. I said, what's that? He was like, well, I got 2 years clean, da-da-da. So we had went to the store one day, and we seen him, like, in North Carolina, they'll shame you. So he was in, like the police section, because he got an assault charge for beating on his wife. So I'm like, wow, yo. So I'm like, nah, I don't want what you got. Yeah, you got 2 years clean, that's cool. But you're still a fucking douchebag. So what's the point in having 2 years clean, still being douchebag, still beating on your wife? I just might as well just go back and drink and do all that. Man, the way he looked at me, he was like, and he riled up. So I'm just looking at him like, you know what I mean? Like, that ain't gonna work either, yo. So he called a little man in there, and they talk like on this like high pedestal of, you know, sobriety, like I'm better than you or something like that. But y'all motherfucking flunkies though. You know what I mean? So you proud that you've been chosen to be a flunky? Man, fuck out of here, man. You know what I mean? So I go, now mind we ain't supposed to smoke cigarettes, right? I go, so I start smoking cigarettes. So, cause now I'm charged, and I'm in North Carolina, I'm from Maryland. I don't know nobody, I don't know where nothing at, da-da-da. So I'm like, man, I ain't feeling this. So the next day I go to the car wash, and I told man, the same one that sent me to the building with. I'm like, man, go ahead, pack me up, cuz I'm done, man. Cause once I'm mentally done, it's only a matter of time before I physically leave. So I left North Carolina that day. Yeah, I come to discover, prior to me getting there, their assets had been seized by Bank of America in the effort of like $1.2 million. Because the dude or the executive director prior to me getting there had basically taken out, I guess, various loans, credit in the name of the institution of which he's the CEO, and ran up all this debt and ran off. He had a church in, I want to say, Greenville, Goldsboro. No, it's like Greens and Burrows in North Carolina. Got two, he married, of course, you know, typical church story. Pastor man getting married, getting women in the church pregnant. So I'm like, why? And then he ran off. So the dude that came in, I'm thinking he's like a savior type. Come to find out, he was his number 2 man. So I'm thinking to myself, like, there's no way, if you have a board and all that, even though I don't know exactly how it works, that you can, you know, commit these financial, you know, crimes without people signing off or being known or turning a blind eye because they getting their palms greased. So I'm like, yo, this is wild, yo. Man, that joint was off the hook, bruh. That joint was off the hook. So he runs off. They already sees off. Now, the pastor man that actually started it, who's a mega church preacher, I guess went back to Bank of America and say, well, can we settle? I got $800 for y'all. They like, nah. So they basically just restructured. They had to sell off assets. That's when I came in during the restructuring part. But I would hear these various stories of, like, they would go to his church and they would say after the church, like, say he'll buy items from, let's say, Walmart, like Walmart brand popcorn, water, you know, cupcakes or whatever. Take the actual corporate label off of it, stick the church label on, selling out the church. They say my man used to, you know, come to the houses, you know, on his Leon Lonnie Love tip. They said, you know what I mean, he got black diamonds, you know what I mean, Italian tailor-made suits, and you got folk in there butt naked. But he just basically going to show off. Like the same type of spirit you see in the black church today, right? That was my first personal experience with it to that degree. And I'm like, man, so I'm talking to them like, y'all ain't see nothing wrong with that? But they was like, well, he was the man of God and we couldn't question him. See, that was y'all fault. Y'all were so enamored with what the man presented. Whenever he was doing this behavioral stuff, you never questioned him because he's the man of God. But don't know man of God act like that. So he duped y'all, and he knew y'all was stupid enough not to question it. But see, Maryland's a little more northern. Like I think in the north, like let's say like a Baltimore, DC, New York, stuff like that, it doesn't, like, we don't really chime into people's movements like that. Because everybody trying to have their own movement. Everybody trying to be their own king. Where I notice, like, particularly in that place down south, if somebody got to move, they can kind of grab people to them. You know what I mean? And they'll, like, kind of look the other way or whatever the case may be. But that, so here we go with this one, right? So I just set the lead, right? Now, mind you, I don't know nobody, and I have maybe $40, if that. It's about March. So it's pretty deep. It was like 70-something outside. No, of course, I relapsed, of course. But the beer shit. And then I ain't really getting super drunk because I've been clean for like 3-4 months. So it's not like I'm getting hammered or nothing. But I'm thinking, now, mind you, I don't know where I'm going. I got $40. I don't know nothing. I don't know nobody around here. None of that, right? This is where keeping it real goes wrong. So I'm doing all this here. So I'm walking around. But I had this feeling of freedom, right? Because I always desired freedom. But of course, there's a great responsibility that comes with freedom. So I'm like, yeah, yo, I'm here. Now I'm thinking about who I might meet, what opportunities I come back. Now, mind, I don't know where I'm going to sleep at. Don't even care. It's all right. But as the day dwindles down, it ends up being the coldest night in North Carolina that year on the day I decided to leave treatment. Bruh. Now, mind you, I don't know where I'm going at because we don't know nothing. We not really out society. Like, I don't know where nothing at. I don't know which direction I'm going. I only think I had a phone. So I, get a little bed, whatever, feeling good. And I'm not really the type to like try to finesse no woman or nothing. I just figured that's just gonna work out. You know what I'm saying? Man, when that sun dropped and that heart kicked up, man, I literally just walked and prayed. Cause I couldn't stay there. Cause once I'm done with something, I'm done with it. But I'm like, man, I messed up, God. I just walked and prayed. Get tired, sit down, so I'm gonna walk and pray. Man, it was so cold. I tried to slide in on it like a school bus. But it was so cold, I couldn't get right. Mind you, like I said, I don't know which way I'm going, right? So I just walk and pray some more, But by the grace of God, now this is a recurring theme as well, where he ends up leading me to a certain destination, but I don't know which way I'm going, right? As I continue to make these videos. So I end up walking in the direction of like downtown. Because I figured, looking back on it, if I had just, for whatever reason, walked the other direction, I might have died that night. It was that cold, bruh. So I walked downtown to like the little train bus depot joint, and that joint open. Now, mind you, I've been so I don't look homeless, I don't look like I'm whatever. So I just go to sleep in that joint. Like, wake up, call my mother, she fired me up, you know what I mean? Do. I'm like, man, I ain't coming back there though. I just want to let you know I'm gone. So we had went to this particular church one day that I ended up passing on the way to the bus depot. So I told myself when I get out of here, I'm going to check this joint out. You know what I mean? Because it seemed like good. Woo. Now, mind you, I'm homeless. I've been drinking, but I wasn't really hungover or nothing. So I said, man, I don't know what I'm going to do, yo. And here's another recurring thing. When I don't know what I'm going to do, that's when God comes through, right? So I said, man, the only thing I know how to do is, I go to church and give it up to him, you know what I'm saying? And then I'll figure it out in the battlefield, you know what I mean? So go to church. Now, I don't tell nobody what's going on, But the dude behind me said he felt it. So we talking at the church. And they ended up getting me into like a homeless shelter or whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, that was my treatment in North Carolina. But it was just so crazy of like another recurring thing, these black-ran Christian organizations who basically just heap people into themselves. Because it was a multi-million-dollar nonprofit organization. But the way it's set up, where they were set up as a work camp, because getting free labor is how they generated their finance. You know what I'm saying? But they weren't really helping anyone in the sense. Now, I understand you got to help yourself. But the way they wouldn't even allow you to do that because you don't have any free time for you. And then let's say 9 months, you graduate. Okay, cool. Can I go? No, but you still got, if you still in there or living in, you still got to work. So if I'm still working doing 9 to 5, and I don't have time to go to the library or anybody got no, how do I do that? I don't know, you gotta figure that out. But if you're here, you gotta work though. So they kind of hold on to you for the free labor. Just like with the various staff, they were only paying them $50 a week. And they might get their own personal room. But you can't really break free or progress in that particular area or that way unless you become like, as I started to see, I need to become a master tactician and mastermind. You know what I'm saying? So I've grown in the respect of, now, okay, I'm in this environment. I see what it is. I see what's required of me. But what I do have at my disposal, how can I utilize that in my overall campaign? You know what I mean? So that was like my North Carolina experience. But I just saw some, and then, we used to go to this various church, and the pastor was actually a great preacher. But I noticed something, and I got cool with another guy from Atlanta. And whenever he would do this, we would look down the pew at each other like, here he go. He'd preach on whatever topic it is. But by the end of it, he'd have switched it over to make it a money principle. And now it's offering time. And then I also noticed something else very, as I observed, right? Especially in North Carolina. And we went to various churches. That particular church was the dude who actually started the rehab. But the ratio of women to men in these churches was astronomical. Like on the low end, it might have been 12-1. And this is like 2010. Yeah, 2010. And I'm like, God damn, where all the men folk at? Like, the congregation was essentially all women, and most of the men were, like, in the pulpit or up there, you know what I'm saying, or some assistant to him or whatever. Like, I remember one joint, we had a spot where they make the food at, and there was a church there whose was actually the son of the pastor. So they let out one day. Now, of course, we in rehab, so we looking at the women and whatnot. So we watching them leave the building. The pastor, who was the dude's son, who was going to A&T, North Carolina A&T, it might have been him and his home. It might have been him and maybe 4 or 5 other guys that left out that building. The rest had to been like 50 females. So they basically had running all these females under the name of, that's the way I seen it. I said, God, done ain't got the gang showed up down here. You know what I mean? Now I understand why, as they say, free thinking or masculine men are not in these Christian churches. A lot of them be, the teachers who heap people unto themselves. And typically the only men you're going to see there are sweet. Yeah. Because man, like, think for itself. Man really don't like following other men unless their character, like, I can get with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm learning something from him. I like the way he moved. I trust his leadership. You know what I'm saying? That's why ain't no real quote unquote men in these Christian churches. Because they don't preach the scriptures as Yeshua is. They preach this kind of socially acceptable, like God, like if you're truly blessed, then society, you should have a good job or you'll progress financially. When we actually see in the word that those people were actually rejected by society, and God sustained them, and God gave them power to take on these various institutions by themselves. You see what I'm saying? Because they had walked a path, such as, let's say, David, where he went through all, and he carried them through all the stuff. You know what I'm saying? Whether it was Saul trying to kill him, Goliath, beating the bear and the lion. You see what I'm saying? And like he went, like, I think from my research, he went through that for like 13 to 17 years. Could you imagine running from, let's say, the king for 13 to 17 years? He was essentially a homeless fugitive. But that's where he got his skills that would actually help him to lead Israel effectively. Utilizing people, being strategic. You know what I'm saying? He had a chance to take him out, I think, on a couple occasions, and didn't do it. When the other person wouldn't have hesitated to. You know what I'm saying? And he just trusted in God's timing. Now, as I begin to go through these various recovery, seasons of my life, that's also a thing that will become apparent. Because, see, I'll duck off when the shit don't look right instead of trusting totally in the Most High. Because I'll get so caught up in what I see and how effed up it is. I'm like, man, God can't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Da-da-da. But he actually used all that to create who I am now. And I'll get all caught up, well, I want to do this, and I feel like I'm wasting, or I'm trying to, make up for lost time and all that. But like I said, I've been out of commission for a decade. And then through a string of events, he seemingly folded time up and put me on par with everybody else. As far as, like, outwardly or whatever I can do in society. But now mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I'm far beyond these people because of my experiences. You see what I'm saying? But wow, man, that was a hell of a move, man. But I'll lead this one up to, I stay in the homeless shelter. The time for that is up. Here's another thing. He always make a way when it seemed like the time almost up. So, I'm at this, and I was ready to be like, summer, spring, or whatever. So, homeless shelter not open. So I'm like, I got like maybe like a week to figure out what I'm gonna do. And I ain't got no plays in the pot. So this is around the time I just first getting on to Facebook. And I'm fumbling around on Facebook and actually had a classmate that was in Fayetteville. And he was like, oh man, I'm, going back to Maryland, yo, where you at? So I say, Greensboro, it's right on the way. He's like, man, I'll come scoop you up. Yes, sir. So I end up coming back to Maryland. When I get back here, everybody think they ain't seen a ghost. What are you doing here? When you just getting on me about not being here, da-da-da. So now I'm like, darn, I should have stayed where I was at, because now I'm back facing all the stuff that I left for in the first place, talking to my homeboy about it. And then as I'm talking to him, my phone ring, job call, want me to start. I'm like, yeah. But I put the application in before I left for North Carolina the first time. So I'm like, well, I guess this is where he want me. You know what I mean? So the next episode in this will be me going back to Anne Arundel County across the bridge. Well, actually, I was going to Anne Arundel, but I was actually going back to North Carolina because I maintained contact with the people. And, you know, they really like me. You know what I'm saying? Like the people I had met, going to church with, so on and so forth. So I'm like, man, I'm going back where I'm appreciated, where I got some peace at. Because this is crazy down here. Because now I'm back in the lounge den, you know what I mean? And the job that I was working, they had just sold the company to some other company. And the line I worked on, they was ready to take it out. So I said, shoot, ain't no sense of me staying here. I'm gone. So the plan was I was going to go across the bridge, you know, party, see some people I ain't seen. Then get myself together, maybe that Monday, Tuesday, hop on a Greyhound back to North Carolina. So this is going to start prefacing up to how I got deconstructed for me to actually fully apply myself. This is a.k.a. Foul Sharpton, a.k.a. the Toothless Wonder, signing off from the Bamboozled Again News Network.